Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mintle. Hey, thanks for listening to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. Faith radio podcasts are only possible because of your support. Thanks for giving and for sharing with a friend.
Doing life together, reaching out with hope, encouraging one another, each step along the road. You and I can make everything a little better, doing life together.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Linda Mintle, the relationship doctor, and I'm here along with my co-host, that other guy sitting across the table from me, that Dr. Mintle, whose name is Norm.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Has been for a long time.
It has, for your whole life. And every weekend, we're here, and we are doing life together. And as always, we're so glad that you've joined us.
We are indeed. Welcome, everybody. Okay, from the get-go, fair warning, this is going to be a show that hits you between the eyes. I'm sorry, it is. It's way too close. I already feel it because I suddenly flash back to being a kid when my mom used to say, "Stop complaining, you'll be like the children of Israel." And I always thought, what does that mean? Well, it means they had to wander around the desert for 40 years. So yes, we're going to talk about complaining.
Yeah, I remember her saying that. Anytime somebody would even bring up a topic that was a little bit of concern, she would bring that up. So she did not complain.
No.
But
And she had a difficult life.
Yes, she did. But you know what, Norm? This hits close to home for me because this is something I really need to work on. So full disclosure, I am taking my own advice during this show.
All right.
Because I know complaining is just too easy to do.
Yes.
I know it's very common. We all do it to some degree, but it's not positive, and we'll talk later, it's also not biblical.
Sure. And nobody wants to be called a complainer. It's kind of this ugly name. You're a complainer. Well, guess what? If you complain, you're a complainer.
Yeah. And, venting too, which is another way to complain, does feel good for the moment. And right? It brings a lot of validation when you're around people who feel similar. I mean, you're just sitting around, you're going, yeah, that person. And you all start getting into this, and it brings this sort of connection to each other.
Yeah, you have something in common.
Yeah. So, for example, when we complain about the drivers in our town, we connect with people who agree, and we feel validated in our observations.
We do. And when people don't even notice how bad they are, it's really bizarre. But it's true.
You mean the drivers?
The drivers, yeah.
The drivers. Yeah.
We get upset. I get upset
You
all
get really
the time.
upset. Yeah.
Because in this town, people pull right out in front of you.
I know.
Then they don't signal when they're going to turn right in front of you. Then they run red lights. They're not paying attention.
Oh, my gosh. On the way to the studio tonight,
Yeah.
a person just ran the green light. Just ran it right
mean
in
the
front
red
of
light?
us.
Ran the red light.
Well, I had a green, so they must have had the red because they ran it. And I was going, and I would have hit them if I hadn't stopped.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
know.
The drivers here
I
are
don't get it.
crazy and out of their mind.
And no one honked. No one
Well, I
did
do.
anything. No one did anything. The person just merrily went along.
I lived in Chicago long enough
I
to
know.
know that my horn works.
You learned to use that horn when we
did.
lived in Chicago.
I
You
did.
did. I think in some ways, Norm, maybe we complain because we feel heard. I mean, that is a powerful need that we have.
Right.
I mean, do you think when you complain that anyone else is seeing this problem and trying to fix it and are we trying to be heard? Are we trying to get some action going by doing that?
No, we're just trying to be heard. You're right. That's a good point.
Yeah, but I think we're just trying to feel better. And here's the thing. Complaining often drives people apart because, like you said, no one wants to be around someone who complains all the time.
No, that's true. I think there's a real fine line between getting someone to agree with your complaint and being obnoxious about it. And doesn't this relate to something you've mentioned in other shows, that the brain is pre-wired to be negative? It seems to me that we focus on negatives far more than on positives, right? It's so easy to go negative, but it takes work to be positive.
Yeah, that's true. And we have talked about that you do have to work at being positive. But when you're negative and you're complaining, it leads to a lot less happiness for you. And more importantly, it doesn't align with Scripture, or it doesn't help our relationships in the long run. And this show's all about helping our relationships. So this is one of the reasons we need to renew our mind daily. Because if our mind is pre-wired to go negative,
Right.
then we need the power of the Holy Spirit in us to help us renew our thoughts and to stay positive because of the hope we have in Christ.
Right. And having said that, I know you're going to tell us later how doable that is.
Yeah.
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 I've heard that some people say that complaining is a mask for fear. What do you think?
I mean, it could be a mask for fear. I mean, they can relate to a fear of change, uncertainty, failure, or doing the hard work required to create a different outcome. I mean, I can see where people would have those issues and use complaining. I mean, it's safe, and change is really scary.
True.
But again, when you complain, you just feel worse. So when you're doing that, the other thing that happens, Norm, is that you're resisting any type of helpful suggestions or solutions. You know, ignoring the silver lining.
Yeah, right.
And over time, you do wear out your support system when you constantly complain.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, after a while, who wants to be around that
Right.
negative person all the time? So why do we keep doing it?
You know, complaining's like sugar. I mean, it just feels good for about 10 seconds, but then it ultimately leaves you craving for more while adding no real value.
Wow.
It goes back to how easy it is to do in our culture, and it's hard to stay positive given social media and all the things that we
Right.
engage in.
Right.
Taking the positive road requires more work, and often it requires us to trust in God. So when things aren't going well, it's easier to complain than say and believe, okay, God, you've got this. I don't see it at this moment, but I am going to trust you.
Right. That's true. I think, I wonder if it goes back to the idea that complaining allows some brief relief for just a moment. You said 10 seconds. So do we also do it to reduce feelings of stress?
Yeah, we do. But I think when we do it often, it just gets reinforced over time. And then it creates a negative outlook, the way you see things. And we see this in our culture. We see people who hate America, the government, those who disagree. And instead of trying to work with reality, the complaining just continues and turns people more negative. Basically, what we're doing is we're conditioning the brain to think a certain way through time and repetition. So excessive complaining trains our brain to look for what bothers us. So we're focusing on the negative there. It's training us to give our attention that way versus noticing what's going well or makes us feel good.
So we get used to seeing the glass half empty rather than half
Well,
full.
we're focusing on that
Right,
negative.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a pause here for a second and ask a few questions before we move on to help us think about why we complain.
Okay, so these would be good questions to think about. Do I need to be validated by others? Do I want to connect with others? Do I need to vent to get feedback, to release negative emotion, or hear myself and realize it's not so bad? And then the last question to really think about is, are any of my needs really getting met? Am I functioning from a place of reflex when I complain? Or am I pausing and thinking through what I'm going to say?
Okay, may I go back to your first question? Do I need to be validated by others? How does complaining help me be validated? Because they agree with me?
They join in.
I
Yeah,
gotcha.
they join in.
Okay. that
So
makes
just
sense.
think about that. Why am I doing it? Do I like that?
What's the purpose? What's
Yeah.
my motive?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Now you're making me think, because I always think about what's the motive of the heart, right? But complaining really changes my brain and my heart, or just my heart changes my brain because I do it so often?
Well, it changes your brain, and that's not for the good, right? So there was research that was done at Stanford University, and they found that complaining reduces a structure in the brain called the hippocampus. And that structure, Norm, is responsible for memory and problem solving.
Oh my gosh.
So the study found that engaging in complaining or simply hearing someone complain for more than 30 minutes could physically damage your brain. How much damage have we absorbed just from social media?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Is it 30 minutes in a row or cumulative?
I don't know. I don't remember. But if you hear it for 30 minutes, it's bad for your brain.
Oh, so the more you complain, the more likely you are to be thinking more negative thoughts later, and so
Right.
it spirals.
Right. So this is because you're building complaining networks in the brain. So there are these networks that continue to get connected in the brain. And in neuroscience, that phrase is synapses that fire together, wire together. So this is what explains it, that you're building these complaining networks. You know, have you ever heard me talk about how the brain builds pathways that we use over and over.
Sure.
Like a skier,
Right.
I've used that analogy, like a skier who skis on the same grooves in the slope over and over. Well, eventually when you do that, the path gets faster and faster because it's used so frequently. So that's what happens in the brain when we complain over and over. We are creating fast and convenient pathways or slopes that make it easy to complain. The brain is physically changing itself. It's making it easier to trigger complaints.
So this very basic science lesson, thank you, doctor, also means that you can develop positive circuits to generate
Yes.
positive thoughts more frequently, different skiing paths, maybe?
Yes. So once you have a thought, it is much easier for you to have that thought again. So if you're constantly negative, the more likely you're going to have the negative thought and more likely to randomly experience negative thoughts. But if you flip it, the same can be true for positive.
That's a great scientific way to support what we know to be a biblical truth, to think on these things, these positive things that
Yeah.
Paul listed.
And so is it any surprise to us that God, who created our brains, knows what works to keep us flourishing?
Right. That's very true. In fact, I've heard you say that who we hang out with, our friends and social circle, also make a difference.
So again, hanging out with people who frequently complain can be just as destructive as complaining yourself. I mean, that Stanford study
Yeah, the 30-minute
showed
thing.
that,
Right.
yeah. And that's because what happens in your brain, again, what we were talking about, our brains are wired to imagine what others are experiencing. So when we see someone experiencing anger or sadness, our brains try it out to enhance our understanding of what they are experiencing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this helps us to empathize with others. Now, this isn't to say we should ditch our friends who could be going through a difficult time, but know that their energy is contagious, and we can choose to be positive and uplift them, or we can choose to join in
Good.
and complain.
Okay, I'm about to take us to break, but one last question. I presume complaining is also bad for my health?
You know what I am going to say about that because of the mind, body, and spirit connection. When we complain, the hormone cortisol is released into the body, and that's that hormone that's responsible for the fight or flight response we get when we get stressed and we feel like we're in danger. And when that's activated, our brain redirects blood, oxygen, and energy away from non-essential systems. So repeated complaining results in cortisol being released in higher levels, putting us more at risk of developing heart disease, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, and strokes.
Okay, I've got really great news for people who don't complain and their health right
Okay.
after this break.
Whenever I start to sense anxiety, it feels like an old friend of mine that I don't like. Certainly when that happens, I'm asking God to come into this with me with prayer and also pick up the phone or talk to somebody. It breaks the grip.
When I am faced with unexpected situations, that is one of the big anxiety triggers.
Anxiety? Anxiety's the boogeyman. It jumps out and grabs me when I'm least expecting it. But also, like the boogeyman, it's a creation of my mind and therefore subject to the Word of God.
When I'm feeling anxious, this is what I do. I pray and I go for a walk.
Anxiety does not have to control your life because God has provided the perfect prescription. Learn how to lean on Him for your peace, your strength, and your hope with Dr. Linda Mintel's new book, Hope and Healing for Anxiety, available wherever you buy your books.
Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mintel of the Dr. Linda Mintel Show.
And I'm Dr. James Cribbs, and we co-authored the book Living Beyond Pain.
If you're one of the 100 million people suffering from chronic pain, this is a book for you. Living Beyond Pain, in stores now.
Hi, let me remind you, this is the Dr. Linda Mintel Show you're listening to, and we would love for you to check out her books and blogs at her website, drlindamintel.com. There you will find, like I said, blogs and books. You can connect with her on social media. You can follow her on X or Instagram at little at signs, Dr. Linda Mintel, or on Facebook at Dr. Linda Mintel, author and speaker. And don't forget, Dr. Linda's newest book is a workbook on anxiety that is helping so many people all over the country. We're getting great feedback to better understand their anxiety, how to eliminate it, how to live successfully. It's called Hope and Healing for Anxiety, and you can find it linked on her website, drlindamintle.com, or online anywhere you buy your books.
And it's a good book for what we're talking about, because when you complain a lot of times you have anxiety.
Oh, that makes sense.
It goes kind of hand in hand. So it would be if you have this issue, like I do, you need to stop. You need to learn what the tools are to stop complaining and change things around. But if it becomes an anxiety issue for you, you can use the workbook to help with that as well.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a good understanding about how complaining impacts us negatively. We know there are some positive health benefits because just before the break, I promised to share one with you. And here it is. There was a study published in the Archives of General Psychiatry that found, on average, optimists tend to live longer than pessimists. I guess that's somewhat sensible. Optimists were found to have a 55% lower risk of death across all causes and were 23% less likely to die of heart disease. Well, there it is again. Jesus told us not to grumble, complain. So how do we change that behavior? Linda, tell us, what are positive steps we can move toward?
But isn't that great? I mean, you just read something that actually shows the impact on the body of thinking the way we're taught to think biblically, to have hope, to continue to be optimistic, to encourage and uplift other people.
Right.
So this is great that science kind of comes along and supports what the Bible says, but that's always the case, right?
Always.
So we're going to look at now, I think, a little bit, Norm, what can we do? How do we really make this shift? So right before a complaint comes out of your mouth, you have a choice.
If you're paying attention, right? If you're thinking. But I guess you are.
I know.
Sure.
I know when I'm going to complain.
Yeah,
Maybe because I've been trying to work on it, though. You're right. Maybe I'm being more intentional because I'm trying to work on it. And you know that the situation is frustrating or upsetting in front of you or whatever you're dealing with. But you can choose to learn and focus on how the situation can make you better, can cause some growth in you, and make us flourish in a different way. So even though it's frustrating and it's right in front of you, a bad situation can be an opportunity to stop, reflect on what things you value, what you like, what you don't like, but what you do like, or what is it that's going to happen here if you use this as a growth moment instead?
Okay.
I mean, it can definitely highlight red flags so that you can avoid them in the future when you're focusing on, oh, here comes the complaint.
Right.
In other words, this could really be a learning moment for you.
Okay, let's get really, really practical. I'll put myself out here.
Okay.
I'm driving.
Okay. Oh, we haven't fixed this one yet, but
No.
okay. No.
It happened today. It happens
did?
every day.
Okay.
Every day someone
Okay.
pulls out in front of me. And sometimes really dangerously close.
Yeah, I mean, this one today that I experienced was dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerously close. So I'm about to say something to that person. And I know I say, don't say those things. I said, nobody can hear me but you. Or,
And God.
And sometimes only me.
And God.
And God. Okay. And God. So how do I do this? How do I apply your prescription to stop and think about how this is going to be life growth for me?
Well, you know that it's an issue, so you stop for a moment, you pause, and I've asked you this question. When you complain about it, does it change anything? Does it change the driver?
No, but I feel better.
I know, but you're doing something that's called grumbling. You're grumbling.
Grumbling?
Grumbling.
Oh, grumbling.
Grumbling.
I like grumbling. No, I like grumbling.
Grumbling. You're grumbling and complaining. And that's what your mom was trying to tell you. Stop being like the children of Israel. Don't grumble and complain. So you can stop at that moment. You can check your mouth, right? And you can actually, and I've said this out loud, I know it hasn't really worked, but I've said to you, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they got distracted. Maybe they weren't looking. Maybe they just had terrible news. I mean, all of that doesn't mean it isn't dangerous, right?
It's a chronic problem in this town.
I know, but we can think about, maybe you should pray for that person. Oh, there you go. Get you in the gut there, right?
Wanjing, help.
But you could stop and you could say, I'm just going to pray for that person right now because they're not paying attention and they could get hurt.
They could get hurt.
Yeah,
That's true.
so that could be one way you could change that.
Okay, so I'm going to assess the situation.
Yes.
I'm going to identify the resources I need,
Which would be
is
prayer.
the prayer and the power of God to
right, in that
help me
moment.
forgive.
That's right.
And
start working on this.
Is that working on it? Getting started?
Yeah, that's working on it. If you could pause one time and not do it and pray for that person instead, or say, well, we saw it, but we're going to pray for that person.
Okay, so if I complain, if I put the brakes on, little pun there, I'm fixing it. I'm starting to fix it.
You're starting to fix your problem of complaining. You're
Yeah.
not fixing the bad
I'm not
driver
fixing
problem.
okay.
But you
yeah.
can't fix the bad driver problem
Well,
because you have no
good point.
control over
Good
it.
point.
So it's just making you feel bad.
Right.
It's not really doing anything to change the
So
problem.
when we talk about bad days at work and bad bosses or bad decisions or something someone made that we can't control, we're venting, but we could also stop and pay attention and think about it.
I think we can mention that we had this issue at work and it was very frustrating, but we don't want to ruminate on it. We don't want to keep talking about it. We want to keep going back to it. And certainly, if we do this in groups, as we said, it's very contagious.
Contagious
Yeah.
is right.
And there's always one person who will step up, take the lead, and maybe start changing it around. Like I can think of people we know that when we do this, I'm thinking of our friend Andy, he'll say something positive and he'll switch the conversation around. He's a good person to have in those kind of conversations because he's always seeing the best in people
Right.
and trying to move it to something that would be growth oriented.
Yeah, so we're both big fans of the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
And when I'm yelling at a quarterback, he's making an excuse. Well, he's young. Well,
He's very kind
He's
and
very-
he's very
he really
forgiving.
is.
So that's part of the
Okay, but
not
you know what?
complaining.
I think positive people get people to follow them.
They do.
Because they're drawn into the positivity, then it becomes momentum and it grows and grows, not like misery. Leaders emerge not because they whine louder, I know that, but because they take the first step in a new or a better direction. So if you want to be someone who matters, stop being someone who complains.
Yeah, that's really good. And I mean, even the silly example we're using with the drivers. I mean, when you complain about it, it's not helping your spirit at all for the day, and you're not really motivating anything to happen. So it really is a waste of time, and it's creating that negative pattern in your brain. So this is a good reason to say, as a leader or anybody just in the car or anybody that's teaching your children, if they don't see you doing that and they see you go, all right, Lord, help that person now. Thank you.
Right.
Or you could stop. They're running in front of you and say, thank you for making us safe. I do that a lot. Thank you for keeping me safe. In fact, I did that
Right.
when the person went through the light.
Okay, give us some step-by-steps on how to stop.
Okay, so we got to identify the root cause. So we were talking about a lot of root causes. Do we need to be validated? Are we afraid? Are we just looking for people to connect with us this way? Figure out why you're doing this. And if you're upset, just dig a little bit deeper. Are you frustrated with, for example, the chores aren't being done? Is there something else that's going on in your marriage? Just get to the heart of the issue when you feel like complaining about somebody. Second step would be brainstorm some actionable solutions, if there are any.
Right.
I mean, don't complain, have a better idea in your back pocket. So have a suggestion, not just an objection.
Good.
This isn't working. How can we improve it?
Good.
That would be a good way to do it. And then just take a first step. It doesn't matter if it's a small one. Just do something. Create a plan, schedule a meeting, rally the team, take action that changes the status quo, and you'll be surprised how quickly the complaining will fade, and eventually you'll have a good progress in this. And then finally, you have to execute your idea, right? So it isn't a one-time thing. It's a cycle. So plan, execute, evaluate, adjust. I mean, complaining isn't static. It just continues on and on and on, right?
Right.
So we have to keep hitting it every time and keep going back and evaluate it and just keep doing it until you change the pattern.
Right. It's an ongoing process.
It is.
I like that. And if you need any more convincing to make this change, just consider how many scriptures address complaining. And to use my mom, in the Old Testament, Numbers 11, the people started to complain about their hardships. Jeremiah the prophet complained about the wicked people, but ultimately he asked God to test his own heart. And, of course, there's that famous Jonah who complained, and we know that didn't go well.
I mean, there's so many examples. Jesus tells the Jews to stop complaining and grumbling in John and Philippians. Paul tells us not to do things without complaining and grumbling. So we are issuing a no complaint challenge. Can you go 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, or more without complaining?
Okay.
Okay?
All right. I love it.
All right. We have a directive from the Bible. Do everything without complaining or grumbling. Let's break the habit and trust God with all things. Not only will our spiritual lives improve, but so will our health and mental health. Well, that's all the time we have today. Many thanks to my co-host Norm Mintel, who makes the show a conversation, and to our technical producer, Wanjing Pu, and our editor, Katie Sims-Wilson. From all of us here at Faith Radio, hey, we'll talk to you again next weekend. In the meantime, remember, we're doing life together, and it's better when you don't have to do it alone.
Doing life together.
Hey, thanks for listening to this conversation from the Dr. Linda Mintel Show. These conversations are available because of your support. Become a supporter now at myfaithradio.com. Please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes, and share it with friends so we can live life to the fullest, walk confidently, and find healing and hope.